You could say so. They know what's happening. Maybe you could go with the ultimate ultimatum, right?
What essentially was that, though?
Oh, I don't want to say, look, I mean, give me a break.
What about the Paramount deal?
I would say the elder, she's doing great. She's doing well. She's really enjoying it. Baron's enjoying it. All my kids are enjoying it, actually. Pretty hot out here, isn't it?
What's muggier, the DC or West Palm Beach?
Not gonna lie, here in the DMV, it's muggy as fuck. I just stepped outside for a second. Dude, it's like 85 degrees and just humid.
I think this is muggy. This is a muggy.
Mr. President, could I ask you about the Paramount deal and the budget finance and like what's holding that up? Like, you know, being resolved?
So Ellison's great. They'll do a great job with it. But so what they did is they interviewed 60 Minutes. They interviewed Kamala. Her answer was horrendous. I would say election threatening. This is the day before the election. Her answer was election threatening. It was so incompetent. So they took the entire answer out and they took another answer to another question and put it in. And they did that, I understand, a number of times, but you don't have to do it a number of times. The main question they asked, and we caught them. And they're very embarrassed by it, and they're working on a settlement now. But think of it, did you ever hear that one before? They took the entire, every word, threw it out, put another answer. Didn't you?
I
You think they do that for me?
I think it happens daily.
Well, I've never seen it. I thought I've seen everything. That I've never seen. And
We're getting a decent rejection here. Let's see if we got to follow through to TP1. TP1, I'm gonna close out the full position, and then we'll see what happens after. But I think we'll get a pretty good rejection here as the first kind of push. But always keep in mind with this trade, there's going to be the first rejection, then there's going to be the retest through the zone and drop. So make sure you keep that second retest, you know, in the back of your mind, how you're layering positions, how much risk you're putting on, leave ammo, don't over risk, and make sure that you're putting the best positions as close to the top as possible.
it's very embarrassing. The head of 60 Minutes got fired. The head of CBS got fired. They're all getting fired on.
Dude, what the fuck is going on in the background of this trade?
We don't move the debt. It's, you violate covenants. It's a terrible
We
thing.
see-
Actually,
Like, imagine you see the president of the United States giving a talk, and then somebody's out there like doing lawn work or something.
Pocahontas even agreed with me. And she's been wanting to get rid of the debt ceiling because she said it's too violent. It is violent. So, I mean, anybody that votes against it, they voted to give a 68% tax increase and many other benefits. There would be no money for the border. You know, we have billions of dollars allocated to immigration, the border, keeping criminals out, getting criminals out too. If that doesn't pass, you'll get a 68% tax increase. And I would say this, any senator that votes against it, and that includes Democrats, I think they'll be finished in politics.
On salt specifically, Senate Republicans or House Republicans will have to spend more in order to get the bill at large.
No, we're gonna see how it works out. It's a very difficult issue, to be honest with you. It's very difficult, and I understand both sides, but we'll just have to see. Hopefully a compromise or something's gonna be made, but it's a very difficult issue. But remember that, you know, people say, what do you think? 68% tax, so that all those numbers I told you how well the economy is doing, it all gets wiped out. You would have the largest tax increase in history by far, by 3 times. If they don't get the big, beautiful deal. I always say the great, big, beautiful deal. I put the word great in there. They took that.
It's gonna be great.
If we get that passed, it'll be the best, one of the greatest pieces. And that's just the beginning of a lot of things that are gonna happen. Because we're gonna get numbers down, we're gonna get them way down. But that's the beginning, that's our big first step, but it's the most important piece of legislation. In terms of dollar value and everything else, there's nothing as big as that. You know, they thought that might be 7 or 8 bills, it's all in one.
Speaking of taxes, starting in July 1st, California is upping their tax on gasoline again per gallon. I mean, that's.
Well, you know, I beat the California amendment. Congress just passed a bill ending it. That was terrible. So what they were saying, everybody by 2030 has to have an electric car. People don't want it. I'm all for electric cars, but you have to
People don't
own
want
one. Right
Mhm.
now, it's about 7%. But they were,
Yo, keep in mind, no one's talked about the Trump and Elon beef. No one's talked about I was talking with my family yesterday, kind of broke it down. The three biggest reasons, like, for why this Iran thing happened right now. It's a distraction from the border, the bill, and the bots. The bots being the drone farm that was just discovered in Iran. That was like an Israeli drone farm or some shit. They were trying to do like this big operation. That just got released. And so I think like the urgency to do this strike right now came from that. So the bill, the border, and the bots. The bill is the big beautiful bill that I called a scam. I wrote a whole article about it way before Elon said a goddamn word. You guys remember that? And then there is the border, which is, yes, there's zero people coming in, which is not what we want. We want good people coming in. Yeah. We want to figure out who the terrorists are out of the 20 million that showed up and make sure that the next 9/11 doesn't happen. And we're kind of failing miserably on the deportation front. So this is a massive distraction from all these things because none of it is being talked about. It's all about Iran. Isn't that crazy? Very coincidental. Elon and Trump go into this whole thing. Trump is on the Epstein files, the whole nine, and then boom, war with Iran. Even though Netanyahu admitted that they're 12 to 18 months away from getting a nuke. So this wasn't an immediate threat. There was no urgency for this attack on a sovereign nation.
forcing everybody to have it. I ended that. And now they're coming out with more. No, in California, we've got some gas stations where just 2 weeks ago, it was $1.98, $1.99. We've got the gas down low. Then we have this little situation, which will drive it up a little bit, but very little. And it's going to come down again, going to give people a lot of extra.
For now, by the way, if they continue to bomb the energy sites for Iran, Iran has threatened to bomb just general oil pipelines throughout the Middle East. Now, in case you guys don't understand, like the ability to transport oil through the Persian Gulf and basically in and out of the Middle East, if that was to be disrupted, and I'm not talking about the Houthis in Yemen kind of like slowly disrupting supply chains out on a different kind of like a sea route. Now I'm talking about the main supply chain for oil. We're looking at $10 a gallon over here. If this escalation continues and Iran starts bombing oil sites throughout the Middle East, we will look at $10 a gallon. Just to understand that's how that works.
Their money. Groceries are down. Eggs are down. The eggs. They hit me the first week about eggs. But no, I think that. Look, you know what I do whenever they talk about Gavin Newsom? I say, look at the rail. Look at the rail.
Yeah, they called him Gavin Newsom. He's still on it, baby.
not even-
Let's go.
You think he comes out and sees the construction workers? I don't think.
I don't think he put an American flag in front of the Capitol.
No, I don't.
Sacramento either.
Supporters are split on the US response to.
No, there is no way the president of the United States is talking and they have some dude with a fucking bone saw in the back. There's just no way. Dude, I would literally lose my fucking mind. There's no chance. JLP, good to see you, buddy. Hope everything's good with you, man. We're gonna catch up here very soon. All right, getting a decent rejection. Let's see if we got a follow through here.
No. Fake news. Fortunately, nobody watches. Is anybody watching CNN nowadays? I haven't seen it in a long time.
Your supporters are wary of the US getting involved in another foreign war. And we don't believe that we should support.
You ever ask a positive question at CNN? My supporters are more in love with me today, and I'm in love with them more than they were even at.
Not true. Ask Charlie Kirk, ask Tucker Carlson, ask Steve Bannon, ask me, ask anybody that voted against wars. Let us see in this shit. I hate this. The policy is bad enough. It's the fucking reaction to the policy. It's the same thing that happened when they shipped off that dude from Maryland, the Venezuelan dude over back to Venezuela. It's like, okay, you did a thing. Dude, how you respond to it, which is like, dude, I don't give a fuck what he is. He's over there now. If you're not from America, you're basically a Mexican. Like that fucking, the whole shtick that they pulled was so outrageous. It was so insulting. This is the same thing Trump is doing. He said, "Oh, you don't never ask a positive question." Dude, this is going to split the MAGA base. I hope you guys, I'm going to make a prediction here, like on some Pip Stradamus shit. If this is not resolved and we actually go into a conflict with Iran, this is going to split the MAGA base. It's going to fuck up Trump's entire political will. And the midterms are coming up. He will get cooked. JD Vance will step in, and we're going to have the technocrats and the fucking tech AI elites running the show with JD Vance as their puppet. But like, I thought we had at least fucking 4 more years until that nightmare. They're trying to, they might accelerate this now. Trump's base will turn on him if he doesn't stick to his promise of less wars.
At election time where we had a total, a landslide. We had yet.
Yeah, who did a really good video about this? Who found all the old clips? Dude, fucking, what's her name? God damn it. Dude, what's her name? Candace. Dude, Candace Owens did a fucking, her producers are on point. There's a segment over here where Trump is talking about his old views.
All right, way before he even ran for president about the disease.
Is absolutely no.
Okay, so she basically dug up a whole bunch of clips about him roasting Biden for being in Iran. And this shit is playing out perfectly. Just replace the word Biden with Trump. And he's basically talking about himself.
Out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deems to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has
Giordano, heard, bro.
absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's
Calling her a toady because after having served in the military, she was extremely adverse to war. And we were like, yes, that's great. That works for us. And Trump, by the way, if we're taking a look at him, he had been extremely vocal in the past for years, by the way, before he even ran for president, about the disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deems to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
Yo, son, yo,
Okay,
son.
and
So the only way that we're starting a war with Iran is because the president isn't competent and he can't negotiate. Hold on.
the Barry Weiss, by the way,
Let's run
before
this
he even
back.
ran for president,
Let's run
about
this
the
back.
disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deems to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
Okay, and he kept up that 4 years later, that same rhetoric during the 2015 Republican presidential election debates. Trump came across as strong, he came across as truthful because he took a bold stance against the disaster of the Iraq War and all the lies that were told leading up to it. Take a listen to Trump.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. All right. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George
Members, is anyone in this trade with me?
Bush met.
For what?
Sorry, guys. I'm
And the answer-
fucking up the video, but it's always, the trade always plays out at the same time. But I mean, fuck the video. But the trade's more important. Who's in this trade with me? I'm getting ready to start cutting some partials pretty soon. Just want to get a head count here. Oh, it seems like everybody. Sheesh. Paul's in, John's in, Giordano's in, Bobby's in. Sheesh. Savages. Fucking savages. Tears to my eyes.
Of mass destruction.
All right.
Up that 4 years later, that same rhetoric during the 2015 Republican presidential election debates. Trump came across as strong, he came across as truthful because he took a bold stance against the disaster of the Iraq War and all the lies that were told leading up to it. Take a listen to Trump.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big fat mistake, all right? Obviously, it was a mistake.
So
George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But-
I want to tell you, they lied.
okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass.
Okay,
destruction.
all right.
Bro, prime.
Yep. That is
Donald.
Trump that I voted for twice.
Prime.
Okay.
Donald.
So we elected him in 2016. We elected him again in 2024, more or less the exact same mandate. And like I said, we were excited, especially when Tulsi Gabbard became the director of national intelligence, right? Weeks ago in March, she testified before Congress that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear bomb. This was 8 weeks ago, you guys. Take a listen.
The IC
This is really fucking important. Everybody, so this is the director of national intelligence. The director of national intelligence, this is like a made-up role that just came out probably in the last 10 years, which is supposed to be what the CIA was, but you can't trust the CIA anymore, which is like the centerpiece of all the intelligence agencies and like getting like a daily briefing of the different points of view of all the main topics, etc. And so as the secretary, she has the latest and most up-to-date information. This is 8 months ago, her saying that Iran doesn't have a fucking nuke.
continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
So what changed, you guys? What happened? Because now we're in this phase of gaslighting. We got all these IDF bots pretending that we're not America first. We're noticing that the messaging has completely changed over a couple of weeks. What actually changed overnight? And why did it change overnight? And the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. What Bibi Netanyahu wants is what he gets. He is the effective president of the United States and has been for a very long time, okay? After 2 years of the media persistent in their message.
All right, last interruption here. So we got 2270. That's where we're at right now. At about 2250 is where I'm going to cut my first contract. And then as it drips closer to TP1, that's where I'll cut the rest. I'm going to be moving stops to break even as it moves down past the 250 mark. So 2250, that's going to be the mark where I start to move stops, et cetera, et cetera. So
messaging surrounding the horrors of October 7th. October 7th, which, by the way, the IDF mysteriously elected to pull their troops away from the border. They had intercepted.
hey, I'm not getting this channel canceled today.
Just heard this story. I still have the same gut instinct.
It's like, nah.
All of this leading up to that moment in October 7th, when for some inexplicable reason, the IDF was just not any one of their very many soldiers to intervene on that attack for 2 entire hours. Utterly implausible. Don't believe me? Just ask Charlie Kirk.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel is on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order?
Oof.
Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem.
By the way, knowing that today's a Fed meeting day, like we're looking for one candle. We're on the 15-minute. We're looking for like 2, maybe 3 of these candles for this move to play out. This is ideally, right? This is like in a perfect universe. So that would mean This 15-minute candle has about 20 seconds left. So this is going to close. And then right now we have the 11 a.m. candle. So between 11 a.m. and 11:20, we should be expecting either a drop or a pop. So let's see if we get that fucking, that push down first. And then, yeah. So we got about 10 seconds or 5 seconds left. And then the new 15-minute candle opens up. But let's see if we fill to the downside or not. There she is.
To the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes, 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say, stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
Questions that Bibi Netanyahu.
All right. Well, I'm trying to get to something market related-ish. Pete Hegseth is live.
Charity Adams was the highest ranking African-American woman in the military at the end of World War II. Her family was at the dedication of Fort Gregg Adams, named in honor of these two trailblazing logistics leaders. They were so proud. Finally, Mary Walker, the only woman ever to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. She graduated from Syracuse Medical School in 1855.
Tim Kaine isn't. Oh, this is our Virginia senator, man. This guy's such an embarrassment to our state, dude.
She tried to join the Union Army as a surgeon, was turned away because she was a woman, but the need was so great, she eventually got hired at a military hospital in Washington, and then was deployed as an Army surgeon with the Army of the Cumberland and the 52nd Ohio Infantry, becoming the first female surgeon in the U.S. Army. She served all over Virginia, including the place where the base is now named after her. She frequently crossed battle lines to treat civilians and even treated Confederate soldiers. She was captured, a prisoner of war in Richmond, until a prisoner relief president, Andrew Johnson, gave her the Congressional Medal of Honor after the Civil War. Why did you decide that these four patriots were not worthy enough to have their names on a base? Well, Senator, as you know, this was
I'm gonna give this hearing like 5 minutes. If it's all about some bullshit, then we're turning it off.
never about the names of the bases they were renamed to. So you don't challenge all bases, restoring all bases to their original name. We're not about erasing. You don't care about their military record. You wanted to restore the Confederate names. When you called the Gregg family to tell them that their dad's name was no longer going to be on the base, what was their reaction? Senator, the Army notified them of that. You didn't call any of the families, and I've spoken with the families, and the families were called by the press. That's how they learned about this. They learned about it from the press. You didn't call the Barfoot family, the Gregg family, and you didn't call the Adams family. I told the families I'd
I'm not gonna make an Adams family joke. It's too early for this.
ask you about this today. In fact, two of General Gregg's
I just want a Wickville. You know, this guy, Tim Kaine, he wants answers, right? He wants confrontation. He wants an answer from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Me, I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple man. I just want a Wickville on Naz. Oh, look at that. Oh, maybe Santa's real.
daughters, Avery and Sydney, are right here in the audience, and I want to ask you this as I close. While you announced that these brave men and women's names would be stripped from the Virginia bases, no orders to that effect have been received by the base commanders. In light of the patriotic service of Van Barfoot, Arthur Gregg, Charity Adams, and Mary Walker, I'd like to ask you simply not to issue the orders changing the names of these Virginia bases. These families, my Commonwealth, are very proud of these heroes, very satisfied with these names, and ask you not to change them. Will you honor these exemplary patriots and keep their worthy names in places on the bases they loved and where they served?
Senator, we very much thank and appreciate them for their service, and we'll find ways to recognize them, but the orders will soon be going to those bases to change the names back to the original name that never should have been changed.
But you have the power to not send those orders. They haven't gone out yet, correct?
Thank you, Senator. Your time has expired. Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, for being here, for your service. I want to go back to something that Senator Hirono mentioned in her questioning. She credited the Obama administration along with some other allies with curbing Iran's nuclear capabilities. As I recall, it licensed their aspirations, and serious problem. We're still living with some of that. And by the way, when it comes to deterrence, and I appreciate you making this point, and I agree with
We got about 15 to 30-ish more minutes. So just set your alerts. What I would do is I would set alerts to the upside. So put an alert above where current price is, and then I would put an alert below that lowest point where the wick is. So if we do create a new low, that means, you know, now you're in new profits. And then if it does head up for the double top, then you'll be alerted. So keep in mind 15 to 30 minutes, set your expectations, and then set your alerts as well. Kind of save you from having to stay stuck on the charts.
my colleague from Alaska, Senator Sullivan, on this. Deterrence is definitely made up of weapons, but it is more of a reputation than it is a capability. The capability is only good if you have earned the reputation. With that in mind, and speaking of Iran and current situation, maybe General, I could ask you this. If Fordo was destroyed, demolished, if all of the nuclear capabilities that Iran has today were wiped out, would the war be shortened or lengthened? Realizing that's not the only factor, of course.
Yes, sir. And of course, I can't split that hair, given the complexities of the war that's ongoing there. So,
Taking off the glasses, boss move. Because you usually put on the glasses when you're reading off the paper. Taking off the glasses and kind of giving off like an honest type answer, boss move.
I'd rather not comment on one particular part. You know, the Israelis are, as reported in the open source press, are making great progress. So I think I'll just leave it at that, Senator.
I understand and appreciate that. Can you then highlight for me that there, as we talk about deterrence and reputation, I'm sitting here thinking about the air superiority that Israel has accomplished over Iran. I'd like to have you speak to that, and then speak perhaps to the lack of air superiority that Russia's had over Ukraine, and the difference in those two wars. And my point being, how important is air superiority in current fights and in our future fights?
So let's fucking go.
Well, sure, we could spend hours talking about the advocacy of air power. I think the freedom of maneuver that it creates is a great example of that. If you look at the two theaters right now with the Israeli Air Force striking at will at this point over Iran, juxtaposed with the challenges that we're having with a frozen forward line of troops in Europe, is a great case study of it. You know, the great thinkers, air power thinkers, are looking at the advancement in technologies from both theaters. The advancement of first person view drones and things like that. And I think folks are going to have to think clearly about what does the future of air superiority look like, and how does it evolve to make sure that we're protecting those essential teammates that are on the ground fighting in order to prevent frozen flots, forward lines of troops in the future.
Appreciate that. Secretary Hegseth, there's been some discussion, certainly in your opening statements, and then with a couple of the questions related to base defense. And this would be something both of you could speak to, but I'd like to start with you, Secretary. Obviously, we've seen some pretty spectacular displays of the ability to go deep and covertly deep within the enemy's territory and take out some pretty significant assets, both in Russia and in Iran. A lot of us fear that we're vulnerable as well. You spoke very briefly, or referenced, I think, in response to one of Senator Gillibrand's questions about the importance of policy. So when we talk about the United States itself and our bases here in the country, policy is a bigger challenge than weapons, to be honest. But what about responsibility? In other words, I think there's some confusion over is there a service, is there a particular institution that's responsible for base security and base defense, or is it up to the individual services to protect their own bases? Can you help straighten that out for me?
Senator, you're right to ask the question. We met on this very topic 2 days ago because you're right. We've already made initial efforts, but I liken it to the effort that was made around IEDs in Iraq and Afghanistan, where it couldn't be a service only response. It needed to be across the joint force. It needed.
He didn't read the book report either. But he's got the gift of the gab. So he can get away with it.
It to be immediate, and the capabilities had to be prepared to adapt in real time to it.
We're getting a really nice drop now. Finally. Almost halfway to TP1. So, like I said, once we cross into the 50s, that's where I'll close another position, and then I'll protect the trades.
Adjustments the enemy is making, and you saw that in things that could in counter IED tech.
If you guys are in profits and you want to close the full position and call it a day, that's another option as well.
Technology. We need the same type of effort in counter UAS, not just now you do it with what you have, but also at home considering the authorities. So that is something the department is doing in real time.
If you have a second. I guess that's it. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Kramer, Senator King.
Mr. Secretary, I'm somewhat puzzled. I grew up in Virginia where Robert E. Lee was revered.
Bro, they gotta stop with this. I love Virginia. I love where I'm from. They've got to stop using the Confederate generals as our argument point, man. This is not helping. Oh, finally. Nice drop on NAS. We're in the 50s, still in the high 50s, waiting to get into the lower 50s, which should be on the next push down.
I think when I was a kid, his birthday was a school holiday. But as I grew older and learned more about American history, I learned that he fit the classic definition of a traitor. He took up arms against his country. He broke his oath as a member of the United States Army, which he took upon entering his career at West Point. Why are you going through these incredible gymnastics, finding current soldiers or other soldiers to rename? And you slipped a minute ago. You said we're returning these bases to their original names. Robert E. Lee, leading general of the Confederacy, Pickett, the other names. Why are you doing this? I don't understand.
Yeah, man, I'm just gonna
And what the motivation is to rename bases for people who took up arms against their country on behalf of slavery. What possible motivation can there be for this? Who is telling you to do this? Who is urging you to do this?
Senator, the veterans and service members across the country who have deployed from Fort Bragg or Fort Benning or Fort Hood or Fort Pickett, there's a legacy, there's a connection to those bases and to those places, to what they trained for there, what they did for, and what they came home back to. That matters to them. Ask enough of them, as I do all the time, before and later. And we recognize the service of those who were put into the replacement. No one's disputing that. I would never dispute that. What we're looking at is erasing history, erasing names, erasing base names that service members are tied to.
Not
Talk to
erasing
people that serve
history,
at Bragg.
it's
Ask
recognizing.
people that serve at Fort Bragg or Fort Benning if they like the fact that the names have been returned. And to a man and to a woman, they will tell you, thank God we're back to Fort Bragg, and thank God we're back. And thankfully, because so many men and women in this country have served, there's a Benning and a Bragg and a Pickett and a Hood has a Silver Star or a Medal of Honor that we could rename the base to because of the limits of what Congress allowed us to do. So this is something we've been proud to do, something that's important for the morale of the Army, and we've returned it back to what it was instead of trying to play this game of erasing names.
We're not erasing history, Mr. Secretary. We're recognizing history and recognizing that mistakes have been made in this country. The greatest of all was the Civil War, where people took up arms against their country on behalf of the institution of slavery. And to continue the practice of recognizing those people and honoring them by the naming of these bases is, I believe, an insult to the people of the United States. Let me talk about the budget. I don't understand why the budget is coming to us in two pieces. Why not give us an honest base budget instead of putting a piece of it in recognition, in reconciliation? As I understand it, OMB is saying we're going to have a flat defense budget for the next 4 or 5 years. Are we planning reconciliation every year from now on? Why not give us an honest budget, telling us what your priorities are, and then we can consider it. This committee always works in a bipartisan basis on a defense budget. We all want to see some increases in the defense budget, and yet you're giving us this this fake.
All right, we got a big retracement incoming. Just a heads up. The best case scenario is that this candle flips, but I got a feeling that we're going to fill these candlesticks. So I'd be prepared for some drawdown. I think the market's going to come back through the entry. So you can protect your trade and then just re-enter if it comes back above. That's the safest option. You can just let it run, which is what I'm going to do. Or close full. I mean, those are the three options. But be prepared for some kind of pullback here. If the market does fill these candles, it'll be pretty savage.
Here's a piece of the budget. Here's another. You're cutting in the base budget. You're cutting shipbuilding in half and saying, well, we're going to make it up in reconciliation. Are we going to have reconciliation every year? Which basically, by the way, puts a significant part, 10 or 15.
I'll be back in 2 minutes. So I'm going to set my alerts just so it goes off on my phone. But I'll be back in just 2 minutes. So hopefully I come back to some good news.
15% of the defense budget in a wholly partisan decision-making process, whereas in the history of this committee, it's always been bipartisan. Why are we doing it this way?
Senator, from our view, the budget number 961 meets the requirements and threats that we face. And
that's not the number. The number is 892.6. You're adding reconciliation. That's my whole point. Why not give us a base budget of 961 or whatever the right number is, what you consider the right number, and then we can operate and make our decisions. Why do it in this bifurcated way that really is fooling the American people about what the defense budget is?
We're not trying to fool anybody, sir. It's two bills, one budget.
I haven't asked my
We're
question
working with
yet. Why is it
OMB
being
and
done
feel
this
very
way?
comfortable.
Why is it
with the
being
number
done
of
this way?
961 billion?
Why don't you give us a straight up budget for the Defense Department? That's my question.
Senator, this is a straight up budget for the Defense Department and a 13% increase over what Joe
It
Biden
is a
gave us.
two-part defense budget. Part of it is in reconciliation instead of in the budget that's being presented to this committee. This committee only has a partial review of the budget. I don't understand why we can't have an honest, straightforward budget instead of this son of Oko that you're putting over on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank each of you for being here, and I want to thank you for your dedication to the country, each of you. So, Secretary, you talked a little bit in your opening statement about China. So this committee, we've basically outlawed the use of Chinese drones by our government and our military. We have the ability now going forward that we won't even license them in this country. Can you just talk about, the importance of making sure that our military, even we don't have Chinese products, whether it's drones, we don't buy Chinese drugs for our military, we don't allow China to buy farmland close to our military bases. We don't allow them to be involved in our electrical grid, bring in despicable foods into our commissaries. Can you talk about the importance of that when they have a government that wants to destroy everybody in this room's way of life?
You're correct in what you're describing, Senator. We need to get smarter, faster. And that's the kind of urgency that we feel in the Defense Department. There's been a lot of talk about prioritization and pivoting and recognizing the size and scale and scope of the Chinese threat. And then there's doing everything possible inside your decision cycle to include how you posture, how you procure, how you plan to ensure that it's not reliant in any way. You don't have Achilles heels in any part of the process, whether it's critical munitions or it's critical mineral.
By the way, members, in case you guys didn't see, I had 2 contracts open. I protected one, left the other one open. So if it does hit, I'm not going to deal with that drawdown as badly. If it continues to rock, that's perfect. So it's kind of more of like a risk minimization strategy here.
Or it's any number of our weapon systems. I mean, you've heard the president say, Golden Dome is, big signature priority for the defending the homeland will be American made, because we can't have systems like that dependent on what the Chinese could do about it later on. So we completely agree with you, and myself and the deputy secretary that's kind of an number one for us, is in making sure that what we source is sustainable.
So if communist China continues to build up their economy, do you think they'll continue to invest in their military?
He said, if communist China, I love how they.
Yes, sir. And I think a lot of that
Whoever's asking these questions is definitely paid off by the military industrial complex.
spending is commingled.
Right. And do you believe that that if the American public knew the risk of China and what you think about every day, that they would buy fewer Chinese products?
Eesh. Good question, though.
Sure, sir, it's our job to think about that every day. If a lot of the information we saw were to be made public, there would probably be more urgency. Yes, sir.
Do you think that we ought to be allowing Chinese companies to be able that support either the economy of China so they can build up a military, or companies that actually work with the Chinese military? Do you think they ought to be able to sell stocks in America?
Eesh.
Senator, that's not really my lane, but
there was a purge of over $850 billion of Chinese companies from the stock market, since they wouldn't. Basically, they were like exempt from following GAAP accounting principles, the GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles that all publicly listed companies have to follow. And so there was kind of like a cleanse that went on. I think it was last year, but it's still ongoing. There's a lot of Chinese money that either owns our stock, owns US treasuries, or, prior to the purge, Chinese companies listed on the US stock markets. So it's a pretty big deal here. We're talking about over $1 trillion.
I would say the president is focused, especially through trade, on right-sizing a lot of those dynamics and making sure that American companies, American industries are protected and brought back to.
I'm going to close one of my two positions. Leave the other one open. Beautiful. So now risk-free trade, if it continues to drop, beautiful. And then I'll just trail my stop loss along the way just to avoid any of the equity trailing drawdown.
To the United States.
Okay. So whether it's Americans buying products that help build their economy, so they can build a military to try to defeat us, or whether it's buying Chinese drones or drugs or allowing them to buy farmland, you would recommend to the American public that we wake up and stop doing these things?
Generally speaking, Senator, yes.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So President Trump has deployed the National Guard and then the U.S. Marines to Los Angeles over the objections of state and local officials, saying that the troops are needed to support immigration detention operations that are being carried out by ICE. On Sunday night, the president threatened to deploy ICE agents to other cities around the country that he sees as, quote, the core of the Democrat power center, end quote, specifically mentioning Chicago and New York. Secretary Hegseth, if the president wanted to deploy Marines to Chicago and New York City like he did in Los Angeles, would you carry out that order even if the local governors and mayors objected?
Well, Senator, because Governor Newsom was unwilling to address
That's not my
protecting
question.
federal law enforcement agents in Los Angeles, President Trump had all the authorities, and the Defense Department happily supported defending our ICE agents in the conduct of their job. They have the right as Americans to be able to do their job without being attacked by mobs. And we will protect them in that process. And if other states needed it, we would provide that.
I know that you heard my question. So you would be willing to send troops if the president ordered it to Chicago, New York City? That's right.
Well, thankfully, New York City, unlike California, unlike Gavin Newsom, is willing to step up and address the issue with their local law enforcement.
Take that as a yes. How about if the president says he wants to send troops to 15 cities? Would you be willing to do that?
Senator, I don't accept.
All right, I'm gonna be here for another probably 5 to 10 minutes. And you guys know how this usually goes. The trade usually plays out the second we get off the stream, but we already have the levels marked off. You guys know the drill. I'm gonna be back for the FOMC press conference at 2:30. I'll be on at 2 p.m. They're gonna release kind of like the preliminary documents, which is gonna be all bullshit. But they're gonna say no rate changes, and they're gonna try to justify it. Which, let's be completely honest, the Fed should not be lowering rates to appease political pressure from Trump. That's the only reason why they would drop rates right now. All right, like, I don't know. We can talk about this maybe in more detail on the 2 p.m. session, but no bueno. So like, here's like probably the simplest way I can put it. I'm looking through my notes here. Yeah, so the cons of cutting rates too soon outweigh the pros. So yes, there's benefits to cutting the rates. I talked about the hundreds of billions of dollars of savings on the interest expense every year. But on the other side, the inflation crisis, like a recession will make people get into bread lines and go wait for a job and go wait for just basic necessities. Inflation will make people grab a pitchfork and get to the streets. That's why inflation has been so, like, such a big topic. Nobody talked about inflation prior to 2021 and 2022. Like, I kind of felt vindicated as an economist. I was like, wow, like, you know, we're cool now. We're like, you know, everyone's asking us about kind of these complex financial mechanisms. But now it just kind of seems like, how do I say this? Look, there's two schools of thought. There's the modern monetary theorist people, which is like, all of this is bullshit anyways. The numbers are all made up. It's all foo-foo. And so it's not about, like, the actual debt number doesn't matter. The nominal number, nominal meaning like just the on paper, like the mathematical number doesn't matter. Which I think is fucking retarded. Because otherwise, how does money have value if there's no scarcity?
Hypothetical? Because
how does money have value if there's no sort of like controls on supply and demand? But they believe that it's relative. So it's all about debt to GDP. So if your economy is growing and you can pay for the interest payments on your debt, you can just take on more debt. And this is how a lot of wealthy people operate in the US. They take on productive debt, so usually business loans or some other kind of commercial loan, and then they'll use that to make money. And then as long as your businesses are growing, then you can always make the interest payments on the loan. You never actually have to pay back the full loan. Then you can go get a new one and a next loan and a bigger loan and a bigger loan. And that's kind of how the US is operating right now. It's like, it's a very like American thing, but it's forcing the rest of the world to do the same. And it's going to create a lot of problems down the road. So anyways, the Fed, if they were to cut rates, it would be great short-term, disastrous long-term. And if they were to raise rates, everyone's fucked. So they're not doing that. So they're going to stay the same. And then maybe in July, they'll kind of sneak in like a 25 basis point cut just to appease the market, kind of keep everybody mauled over till the fucking summer's over. I expect the rate cut next meeting, which is probably going to be like the first two questions they ask in the Q&A. All right, once this trade finally drops through, okay, we're in the 45 zone now. Beautiful. So yeah, once we kind of break through the 40s, that's when I'll call this stream. And yeah. If you made money, hit like and subscribe. If you guys are on YouTube, check out the links in the description to learn how to trade like this. If you guys are a member, you already know how we do. You guys know what it is.
It's the question. You're the Secretary of Defense. Would you send troops to 15 cities? If the president said, do it, would you do it? 15 cities.
Again, Senator, It's a complete hypothetical lacking any context
Look,
at all.
You're the.
And I
Secretary-
refuse to box myself in based on
Well, you-
questioning on a hypothetical.
You're here asking for $1 trillion and I want to know how you're going to spend it. And so my question is, if Donald Trump tells you to send troops to 15 American cities, are you going to spend the money and send the troops?
Thankfully, we're spending money on securing our southern border, a way the previous administration abandoned and allowed
Okay, so you're
21
not
million
gonna
illegals to
that
enter our
question
country.
in
So
any way.
it's still serious priority under this administration, and we're doing it.
Understand the question about defense. Secretary,
I love how Elizabeth Warren kind of painted herself as the whole like kind of libertarian, progressive, sort of like down with the system kind of deal. And then it turns out RFK called her ass out, saying she gets more money from pharma than anybody else on that podium. It was like $17 million for every campaign that she runs. So it's like, bro, the most bought and sold person was the one playing like for the people, you know? And it was all bullshit. And that's why, like, even though it's distasteful, the Trump joke, the whole Pocahontas thing, how she pretended to be Native American, that's how she got into Harvard. And she was like the first woman of color in Harvard or whatever. And then Trump baited her into getting a fucking DNA test. And then she was like less than 0.1% Native American. Like the shit was I don't know why the fuck she would do the test and like put it out. She's retarded. That's what I realized. Not because of, you know, anything other than the fact that she got baited into taking a DNA test and then flexing it because Trump said he would give her $1 million or whatever, like in passing. And then she was like less than 0.1% Native American and like completely just like outed herself. Anyways, so she's a fraud. And I fell for this shit back when I was young and retarded, you know.
Seth, about 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines have been sent to LA. Is there a number of troops deployed to American cities over the objections of governors and mayors at which you would be concerned that we are undermining our national defense?
Senator, we've spent 2 decades guarding other people's borders. We think at the Defense Department, it's about time we shore up ours.
So that's my question. Is there a number at which sending those troops to Los Angeles or Chicago or New York starts to undermine our ability to defend ourselves around the globe? Is there a number?
Senator, we look at capabilities and readiness around the globe all the time, and we're quite.
What she's asking is if we send like 50 or 500 or whatever the fuck Marines to LA, are we putting ourselves in danger by not being able to defend ourselves somewhere else? Dude, her staffers just ChatGPT, bitch. Goddamn.
Quite satisfied with our capabilities to defend the homeland, and will provide more if and when it's necessary.
Satisfied with our capabilities. Let me just ask, have you actually done the analysis and figured out how domestically
Clearly you haven't.
you start to undermine readiness around the world? Have you done that analysis?
Yes, ma'am.
Then would you let the rest of us in on it? We are the Senate Armed Services Committee and you're here to ask for $1 trillion. What's the number?
We've got contingent.
This is why traders shouldn't watch politics. Because it's just like, I'm like simultaneously cool as a cucumber in the trade, but also getting fucking riled up by how retarded this shit is. And I know I've used the word retarded a bunch. Sue me. But yeah, traders should really like fucking playing some lo-fi music or whatever. That's what I'm going to do as soon as the stream is off. In all honesty, I'm going to set my alerts. I'm going to go touch grass. I'm going to play some fucking music or whatever. And then let this thing ride out. Because we're probably headed in for a big retracement and a move back down. So watching this buffoon show, this fucking circus show over here, probably not helping my nerves and my patience. But anyways, I guess this is part of the test.
Contingencies and plans
This is like real conditioning.
for any number of capabilities should governors be unable, as Gavin Newsom has been, to actually secure his own federal agents in their cities.
How many troops can you deploy domestically before you start to cut into our readiness internationally?
I mean, that's
As I said, previous administration.
I think she found her way to that question. Like if she had just asked that question originally, I think it was a very valid question, but she like danced her way through it. She was like, I got it. That is a good question. Good for you. And then she fucking got it out.
Operations deployed our National Guard all around the globe in numbers far beyond
But
what we
you're
were capable
just
of supporting.
tell
So
us.
limited contingencies inside the United States to protect federal law enforcement is doable.
You to remove troops from American city streets. Will you do so?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, if the Supreme Court orders you to remove troops from American cities, will you do so?
As I've said, Senator, I don't believe district courts should determine national security policy, but if the
That was
Supreme
not-
Court rules on a topic, we will abide by that.
Okay. You know, during her press conference last week, Secretary Noem said, we are staying here to liberate the city from its mayor and its governor, people who were elected by a majority of voters. Secretary Hegseth is saying he is ready to deploy more troops and won't tell us what the implications are for our national defense. This is un-American and it makes us unsafe. I wish our Republican colleagues would speak up.
The time of the senator has expired. Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here today. Mr. Secretary, thanks for looking out for the law enforcement and the millions of people in California that still love this country and want this country to survive, and not the radicals that wait.
I had never heard of this dude a day in my life. I promise you this dude is bought and paid for.
Non-American flags that protest in the streets, tear things down. It is ridiculous. And thank you for doing what you're doing, you and President Trump. It's getting out of hand. Chairman of the Personnel Committee, thanks for your recruiting. You're doing great. Keep looking out after the quality of life. Please do that. We've done research after research. We did give a raise. We want to continue to give raises. These first-year staffers in this building make tens of thousands.
Oh, finally, something more interesting. My boy QB Stu is in the chats. Everybody put WQB Stu in the chats. Put WQB Stu in the chats. My boy just popped up. What's up, bro?
What's up, brother?
Shit, man. Just watching paint dry with this trade. There's a hearing in the Senate. Bro, this is the worst shit ever. This is like, I should have just waited till Jerome Powell spoke later.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
He's talking today. I'm assuming like around 2 or something.
2:30, yep.
Okay, yeah, I haven't even checked or nothing, bro. I'm about to get into some yard work.
Bro, all you gotta do is just hop on this stream later. I'll send you the Zoom. Hop on like 2:30. There's gonna be no rate changes today.
Okay.
He's gonna be reading off the book. And then they're gonna ask him like the same 5 questions over and over. Are you gonna cut rates next time? Right? How does the war with Iran affect your, you know what I'm saying? We already know the answers, so it's gonna be, we're just gonna be roasting Jerome. We're gonna hop on for like 20 minutes later.
Okay, easy. Yeah, I'm gonna only be out there until like 1:30 anyway, so that time's up perfectly. About to check Forex Factory now.
Shit, I might just pull up on you.
2 p.m. Yeah, okay, bet. Yeah, that's perfect. My neighbor, the woman who used to come and spend a lot of time with my mom, she's gonna help me with this yard work. Like she went out and grabbed some flowers and stuff. So we're gonna get the front yard looking right.
Like this is like she's doing this out of like by choice, bro, or like.
Yeah, no, I mean she and my mom were like, she was probably her best friend, so they were really good friends. So they like doing yard work and that type of stuff, which it is therapeutic. I'm not gonna lie, bro. It's one thing.
Yes, sir.
It's one thing having your hands on the keyboard. It's another thing having your hands in some soil and that's sweat
right.
equity.
When they say touch grass, that's what they mean, bro.
Yeah,
Go
I
get
mean,
connected. But yo, if you need some help, bro, let me know. As soon as I hop off the stream, I got some work right after this, but I can come help out if you need.
yeah, that's a bet, bro. I just yeah,
Yo,
I'll be
let me
here.
catch you up real quick, Jason, because I'm about to hop off the stream too.
All right.
But there's a war going on. So basically,
Mhm.
Israel and Iran have been playing this chess match for like 70 years.
Okay.
Right? But they've been doing it through these third parties, through Hamas, Hezbollah, these third party groups. It's called proxy wars, where you don't go head to head. So you can let them fight in like Afghanistan and Syria, these kind of countries that don't really have a government. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a Call of Duty map. and you can use Syria and Afghanistan as a Call of Duty, and they've just been doing this. But for the first time ever, now they're launching missiles from country to country, from Israel to Iran, Iran to Israel.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Right. Right.
Now, I'll remind everybody watching this, World War I, World War II were fought over much, much less.
Right. Then
than
folks
what is
shooting
happening
missiles at
right
each
now.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like before the missile thing is like just the foundation of what led to World War I, World War II,
Mm-hmm.
compared to this just wasn't that deep.
Right.
Archduke Franz Ferdinand got shot. Like, yo, fuck him. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Mhm.
now we're talking about Middle Eastern destabilization and oil, all this type shit. So the big kind of thing is America at first pretended like we had a piece in this. Trump gets out, starts tweeting.
Mhm.
We knew about this. Then when the media backlash came in, like, yo, I thought we weren't getting involved in these wars or whatever. He was like, no, we had no idea. We're just supporting Israel.
Mhm.
Now, like every other spokesperson gets out and now they're fumbling on the mic. And some people are like kind of snitching on themselves saying, yeah, America did know, we're behind this. Like we're using Israel basically to bomb this other country. Like America is at war with Iran.
Right. Whole time you just using Israel as the
As like
the
the front line.
facade. Yeah, as the okay, okay, they got them in costume.
But now real shit, like we didn't declare war in Afghanistan, right? We never declared like officially war. We never declared war in Iraq. Like 20 years, we have not declared a single war. This from one sovereign country missiles to another sovereign country with the support of America. This is a declaration of war internationally. Now, Iran is 90 million people deep, bro.
Right. That's a lot of heads.
Bro, that's OD. Like, I think Israel has a population like 7 million.
So we're talking about 90 versus 7, but then you gotta think about the backing. You gotta think about the backing.
You gotta think it's America on one side, and then you have Russia, China, the entire Middle East.
So this is where World War III is setting up to.
We're already in World War III. That's what I'm trying to argue. And like a lot of people disagree with me. We are literally in
okay.
it, because if we're so like Israel's logic is
That's crazy.
because Iran supplied weapons to Hamas and Hezbollah, that Iran is the sponsor of terrorism. Like they backer of all this stuff, right?
Okay.
Follow that same logic. If that is what it takes, then us supplying Israel with these weapons to bomb Iran means that we're attacking Iran.
Okay.
We're at war with Iran, right? Based on the logic that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Yeah,
we're at war with Iran, like this is real shit. Iran is a 4,000-year-old empire, bro. The Persian, it's the oldest empire in the world.
Right.
Empire, the Persian Empire.
Why would they choose to do it in the middle of the summer?
Bro, I told them the 3 Bs. It's a distraction from the border, the big beautiful bill, and these bots. The bots meaning the drones that Israel is planting in Iran. But bro, no one's talked about Elon and Trump.
Right. Right.
Since this shit popped off randomly, right? Because it didn't need to happen. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, bro. It's been a crazy last 2-3 months, man. It's been crazy just the last 30 days. It's crazy.
I know, bro. Trump said he was going to end these wars in one day. Thanos, snap his fingers, all of it's done. We like Iran wasn't even on the table. He just pulled a new name out of the hat. He was like, "Yo, we're doing what?"
Right.
This wasn't even one of the ones. It was Israel and Gaza, and it was Ukraine and Russia, right? He's like, end these wars, and gets in. He's like, "Oh, boom. By the way, didn't end those wars. Boom, war with Iran." But what the fuck? It's a Tuesday.
Man, I'm just trying to stack cheddar and stay out the way, bro. That's the thing. That's what's crazy. It's like, man, bro.
But that's what I was telling him. Like, it doesn't matter who the president is, what Jerome Powell says, like the 88-6 to the 88-6, right? Like this whole playing out right now, whatever. But we got to do something in the meantime, right? While the trade plays out. That's why we entertain all this bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's good to be informed and know.
Yeah.
Like, it's just to not know. That's, shit, that's crazy, man.
Nah, I'd rather be rich than informed, though.
It makes sense that, well, yeah. I mean, it could be both, though, Shit, it could be both. Once you get the bag, then, if you know people who got the game and got the information, then you're set. You're set.
Amen.
But, yeah, control what you can. Yeah, honestly, yeah, it's so true.
Yo,
everything else is out of your hands, so it's just like
For sure, might be Jason. But if you guys have questions for Jason before he hops off, you guys want to throw one or two out there. He's in $1 million trade right now in XRP. This man's the most disciplined trader. If there's stripes on a black belt for trading, Jason's hit that, you know. And if you guys have any questions, trust me, do not waste this opportunity. People like Jason don't just hop on and, you know, give their time out. So if you guys want to quickly 10, 20 seconds, put up a question for Jason, it could be simple, the simplest thing ever, or it could be complex, whatever it is. You know, he'll know how to take it from there, but don't waste the opportunity. Put up a question or two for Jason.
One thing I do know, Roy, is when this is all said and done, I think my least favorite word in the English dictionary will be swaps.
Bro, that's the shit they don't teach you about, man. When you're holding these trades and you have to pay a fee between every session close and between every weekend, you got to pay to be in this trade. Like, they don't know about that, bro. And I don't know about that because I ain't fucking holding for it.
Sweat equity, brother. Sweat equity, man.
Yo, so Jason, I mean, I guess I can ask you the question, man. Like, if you were just to give like, does it get numb after a while? Like, you know, you're in the $1 million trade, then it goes down to 600K, 300K. Holy shit. Like, now you're a millionaire, but now it's retreat. Like, at some point between all the ups and downs, does it ever get easier or do you just get stronger? Like, for bodybuilders, they say the weight never gets lighter, but you just get stronger. Right? Like, is it the same thing with your ability to handle all these fluctuations or no?
Yeah, I mean, anytime that's happening, your faith is being tested. And then it's like when you make it out of it and know like what you had to overcome, everyone else will see, you know, whatever it ends up being. And regardless, like when you know what you are and you know what you're destined to be, like all that's in between that and you is the time. So for these type of things, bro, it's like I already knew that one day this type of stuff would be coming, but I just know for me to, when you look at hedge fund traders, or I used to love that show Billions, the lead character, Bobby Axelrod, and just even though I knew it was a show, that's still reality for people. So
it's close, bro. It's probably one of the most accurate shows when it comes to hedge funds, if I'll be honest.
So for me, like seeing the psychology behind people having to take these type of trades, it let me know that I had way too much of a personal relationship with money, and that I needed to distance myself and like learn to grow through that. But that's not necessarily my fault, because growing up with a scarcity mindset, not that my parents didn't have money, but I didn't necessarily have money. You know, they weren't giving me money. And then even going through JUCO and not getting paid in college, you know, now there's all this NIL money. I would have been making millions. And it's like, so knowing that I was already owed at least $1 million from past work that I never got paid. It's like, I truly believe and understand that what's for you is for you. So it's like, there's still a lot of capital coming my way regardless.
Yeah, would you say like because what you just described is self-worth. So would you say that you can only ever achieve the trading success to the limit of your self-worth? Like whatever your self-worth, like if you believe that you're owed that million, like you're not going to sweat, you know, the smaller change along the way. But if you feel like, oh my God, like this is $1,000, like I don't even deserve 1,000 to make, you know, and you start tripping over that, do you feel like it's a self-worth thing?
Well, I think self-worth comes from like it says faith comes by hearing the word. So I love the whole concept of like affirmations and speaking life into your life, because the more you hear it, the more you start to believe it, the conviction. And the trade itself is just a byproduct of what I've been growing into and have been become. Like I've been trying to take this setup for years. You know, it's so crazy. I happen to be at your house, you know, with you, me, and Joe there, and like we're watching the election, and it's like, had y'all not had the election on, my mind was elsewhere. I didn't even know. So the election hadn't finished. Because it hadn't finished, I'm thinking to myself, well, I know because Trump is more than likely going to win. We saw the, you know, probability. I'm knowing he's pro crypto.
Jason, even before that, the 100K trades that you've had and all these things, I feel like, were you treating every trade like it was the one? Because I kind of feel like that's the secret, is like, if you just treat every trade like it's the one, and you're disciplined and you do the right shit, like eventually the one is gonna show up and you'll be ready for it, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
there's been times where the trade hasn't gone well either. You know, like I've talked about losing 240, you know, for the longest. And mind you, the 240 was also like over 100,000 that I had built up onto it. So it was not like, it wasn't like 240,000 just deposited and all cooked. You know, it was like 120,000 that I took to 240 and then ended up blowing it. But there's been times where I have tried to like push the limits on myself of like what I'm comfortable with and like trying to take, you know, because that's what it started off at. I was using 0.1s where it's like, you know, $1 per pip. Then I went to 1.0 where it's 10 per pip. Then I'm at using 5 lots and 10 lots and then eventually, you know, it's like you just keep pushing the limits. I guess similar to like weightlifting or anything else where, you know, once you keep going up and increase in weight, it takes a while to get comfortable with it where you feel confident that you know, can properly move it around. So it's kind of all the same. And then I would really say, bro, just divine timing. Divine timing is like I've been following and trading XRP for years. So the fact that I already have a good amount of XRP in assets, just as far as buy and hold. But I wanted to double dip. I wanted to be able to margin trade XRP as well and try to catch the pop that I believed to be imminent due to the fact that Trump was going to win the election. He's pro crypto. I couldn't have predicted the fact that he would sit down with Brad Garlinghouse, and that would also increase.
Sit down, bro. They're playing golf every weekend, bro.
Right. I couldn't have predicted that, but I just understood that Bitcoin is the digital gold and XRP is the digital messenger. So it's like I understand the importance of both, but XRP being so underpriced and the fact that less than 0.5% of people in the world even own it.
Bro,
I
there's
see
more
that as an
millionaires-
opportunity.
There's more millionaires in America than there are Bitcoin. Like if every millionaire in America wanted their own Bitcoin, they couldn't have one.
Yeah, like 2 to 4% of people in the world own Bitcoin, but literally 0.02% is how many people own XRP. So it's like,
Well, XRP is like the Saudi government, like, you know, it's like the treasury is going to use it as its like backstop. It's like BlackRock, you know, BlackRock was a
well,
small.
even Swift, you know, Swift is going to be more than likely allowing XRP to move 13% of their workload.
Dude, see, that's retarded. Like XRP can replace Swift overnight, but like the people who built Swift get paid from it. And that's why they prefer this old ass. Dude, XRP is you can send unlimited money instantly anywhere.
Yeah. For a low fee. For a low fee.
For no, yeah, almost no fees versus
Right.
Swift, there's a T plus. So it's like for checks, it's T plus 2. For Zelle, it's T plus 0. So like they can do Zelle. But for everything else, it's T plus 3. So like the time that you make the deposit to the day it actually becomes available to spend the funds. It's retarded, bro. You shouldn't have to like wait 3-4 days for your shit to clear. XRP can fix that problem, but again, whoever owns the Swift system, they get paid a check on every transaction, and they're not letting that go at all. So I think it's like a 7 years or 10 years, dude. Unless a better XRP comes out, dude. You know.
Yeah. Well, more so too, outside of just the coin, it's also the relations that's been made with the big banking institutions. Like Brad Garlinghouse and all the individuals that he's hired already have really good relations with a lot of the banks. And so yeah, I just, you know.
To be honest, it's got more adoption than any other like full-on currency besides Bitcoin. Because there's crypto tokens, which are things built on top of like an actual like main chain, and then there's the real chain. There's like the real money. Like XRP is a currency, and so out of all the currencies, because Solana is more of a technology layer, it's more of a token, and then so is Ethereum. But XRP is the biggest cryptocurrency besides Bitcoin. It's like the currency, and so adoption is more important than any other technological, like, you know, anything else. The more people that are using one thing, that just becomes the thing. And XRP already has the head start. So, dude, you're sitting in a good position. Now, if I was to ask like one last question, Jason.
Yeah.
well, I'll ask you the futures question later, but in terms of like letting trading affect your daily life, we're trading futures. We get to be on and off the charts.
Mhm.
Once it's off, if you lose, you get to carry that loss for the day. Maybe that affects you, but
Yeah.
you're in a position. And so how do you stop that from affecting your daily life? Like with your relationships with people, your ability to focus
Yeah.
on
It's like I said, bro, my relationship with money was too personal, too emotional, too tied to the up and down of I mean, bro, and you and I both experienced this in this past season of our life, losing a parent is like, it shows you, bro, this like money, yes, it's important, but it's nothing, bro. That's even the same reason I'm staying in this area, bro. Cause it's like, I know for 100%, I've always said it and, at conferences, talk about the things in life that money can't buy that make you rich. I've always talked about it. But then when you lose the thing that makes you most rich, then it's like, okay, bet. Like as if I didn't already know, but now it's confirmed. So like it's like, yeah, I want to get to a bag and I'm going to, because the hustle doesn't stop. I'm just like, bro, I just gotta stay close to what makes me me. And the people, who I like would do anything for, my dad, my brother, and a lot of my friends that I grew up with. So
and that's a big thing for people to recognize is like you don't want to sacrifice your relationships with the people around you to pursue this bullshit dream of being a trader when your whole goal of trading is to like take care of your family and be around them more, etc. You can't hustle backwards. Would you agree, Jason? Like, is like there isn't like a
yeah,
period where you kind of put your family to the side and then you focus all in. Like you do have to
yeah.
make sacrifices, of course, but
Yeah, it's inevitable. You have to do that, but then it's like that's what if the sacrifices aren't for that, then at some point I feel like my biggest fear, bro, was like if I didn't come back and take care of my mom, my biggest fear was like what was so important that like what were you hustling for? Was it to get more money? Was it to get more social media followers? What would it have been? What accomplishment would have been so important that you couldn't be there for the person that matters most in your life? Because then at some point you got to ask yourself, what are your real priorities?
right.
So yeah, it just honestly, if there wasn't clarity before, then there is now. It's like now I know, and anything's a flight away too. That's the beauty of why trading is such a powerful thing, and investing is such a powerful thing. Cause you know me, bro. I don't even tell people they need to trade. I'm like, but you should invest. Trading involves a lot of emotion and a lot of studying and a lot of which, if you're willing to do it, then it's a superpower. But investing as well is like, okay, this same money that we know is depreciating with inflation could be sprinkled somewhere else or even put into hobbies.
For sure.
So,
I mean, that's the biggest thing is like you got to take the money out of these markets with trading
mhm,
and put it somewhere that it's completely unrelated. It's uncorrelated with trading.
right.
Because trading is so up and down, but when you have those good seasons, you got to fucking milk it and then you got to invest, you know?
hmm
But Jason, I really appreciate everybody put W QB Stew in the chats. If you guys took something away from this little convo, we'll get him back on the stream when he has more time. Go through a full breakdown of the trade. Let him show you his charts and kind of what it's like dealing with $1 million trade. And this is history in the making, people. Like people from our niche, we don't get to see $1 million from people that come from the same place as us. We get to see $1 million trades from like hedge fund managers and things like that. But Jason, for you to fucking be Roger Bannister, the 4-minute mile, to throw on these big numbers, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll continue to be here supporting.
Hey, bro, we're all we're all carrying the boats together. That's the beautiful thing. It's like after Roger did it, then like 50 people did it. It's a nutty number. It's like,
Well, every high schooler in the country fucking started breaking the 4-minute.
right. Folks
We
saw
gave
him do it and they were like, oh, I didn't know it was this easy.
The coach is looking at them like, bro, you said you were running your fast, bro.
I
Like,
feel like it's really more of a diss at Roger. Cause like, bro, folks looked at Roger and was like, ain't no way, bro. If he could do it, that's
he said, if he can do it, I can do it. That's the most disrespect.
uh-huh.
But really, it is like that. It's like most people are self-trapped. right? Like you think that there's a limit, right? You're like, okay, well, I don't have any limits on myself, but like there is a limit for this thing. That's a limit. And so Roger Bannister was like, wait, guys, there's nothing behind this fence. Like, why don't we just keep running? And he just did it. And they were like, wait, there's nothing behind the fence. And they just started running. And so it's the same thing. It's like, can I lose 25 grand? Well, no. And then I see one of my, I see somebody I know do it. I'm like, you know what? It's not like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm like, but we're all human. I'm like, he didn't catch on fire, bro. Men in suits didn't grab you up after that 240K, Jason. People with signs outside your door talking about Jason sucks. Like, none of that happened.
Yeah, and even with sports, I was already used to that type of thing being a reality. Like, and the thing with sports too is there was no finessing or change in the outcome of your performance. With trading, it's like people are able to do all types of crazy stuff. And with sports, it was like, nah, like the game is the game. You can't alter your stats or
Which one is more stressful at keeping your cool and sort of like being in the game? Quarterback or trading?
Trading, I would say, is more stressful.
Well, then
Only because at quarterback, I feel like I have more control over the outcome. I mean, there's still the variables like, I could, if I throw a bad ball though, that's on me. That's what I appreciate. It's like, if I see a cover two, I know it's cover two. But when you see a head and shoulders, it could look like a head and shoulders and then still not do what head and shoulders do. So, that's, I guess, what was the most frustrating thing for me early on was as I was like studying these patterns and these formations. And then when I would see them, I would think that it had to happen because that's, what it teaches.
That's
And
what
then
Big Ten said, bro. They said the wedge goes down. So like, why didn't the wedge go down?
exactly.
But
And
Big Ten
that's what was
said.
frustrating me so much. But then I just was learning more about just understanding, play the probabilities and just like my completion percentage, it's like if I have a 70% completion percentage, then that's doing really good. So it's like I just gotta keep taking what's there, not force the ball too much. When you always go for touchdowns, you're gonna throw a lot of interceptions. It's like you gotta know how to take your check downs too. So it's parts of this trade even I could have managed better. That's the reality. It's like I've had to enter and re-enter multiple times at that $2 mark because I'll wait for price to come back down to $2. Boom, I'll hop in another 30 lots and then it'll go up a bunch. And then I've only closed partials a couple times.
Wait,
But it's
sorry,
like,
Jason. Real quick, guys, I'm all out at the trade. I'm 100% out. But so that's the thing, Jason, is like right now, if the price was to come back to my entry, and then I had to make another decision to re-enter, that's like basically like I would have to give up all the money that I just made and risk that back to get back in. And I feel like that's like very stressful for me. And
yeah.
so
Well, you could cut that in half then too. You could just risk half of what you just made.
Well, I mean, 100%. So we have these strategies, right? But
Right.
like when you are re-entering this trade, you're kind of hoping to get back to like, you know what I'm saying? Like you got a certain position size that you're holding. And so when you close a bunch of it, then I feel like when you re-enter, you're still putting in 30. Like you're not coming in with 15.
I know. See, even that is like I already know it's not good to do because you want to usually put half, especially since I'm trading off the margin. But I already knew what price it would have to go down to for me to be in trouble.
So you're clear about what your line is. Like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's like risk tolerance, That's like, bro, it's like here's the reality, man. Some people are down to climb a mountain harnessed using rope, and then you got the Alex Hanolds of the world who want to go free solo some shit, bro. Like that's the thing, man. It's like I'm not proud to say, but after my mom passed away, I was just free soloing the sports betting. I was free soloing trading. I just was feeling like a crash out, not in a bad way, just in like I didn't care. Like I was so overstimulated with life that I was like, I'll put $50,000 on a basketball game because I just don't care. Like, and it became too extreme because I told you, oh, I'm treating money too personally. Then it was I don't give a about money. And then it was like, wait a second, we still need to respect it. We still need to respect it because there's been too much hard work put in and
So you're not love it, so
sacrifices.
you don't love the money, you don't fear the money, but you respect it,
Have to.
which is both. It's like, yes, you want more.
Right.
but
You
you're not
respect,
scared of-
the respect comes from a love and fear relationship.
Amen. So now let me ask you real quick, which is, now you did have some success in the sports betting. So
Yeah.
there's two
Mhm.
things here. Number one, do you feel like that carefree attitude actually made you more successful because you were just like, you literally could like you were not attached and you couldn't be attached in any way? Do you feel like it made it easy, like made you more successful?
Well, I liked because like for this trade, for example, I've been swinging since election day. So the difference is with sports betting is like I know the event is going to be done within an allotted amount of time, which I really like. I also liked too that, I mean, yeah, of course the refs and stuff can get involved, but I liked too being able to take you know picks and stuff based on my opinion of players and how I thought the game would go.
Bro,
But
your
once again,
secret
then
is
I
fun, like,
started to get
you can be
I
a
started to get stupid with it, bro. Like when I put 20,000 on Mike Tyson to beat Jake Paul just because I saw him in the assless chaps, and I thought for sure, like, oh, he's about to give him the unk treatment at the cookout.
He was biting his glove the whole time. But now
Yeah, bro.
listen, Jason, these are the growing moments, obviously, because I think it's the chicken and the egg, which is you have to grow in order to be able to take on these big trades. You have to
Mhm.
become the kind of person, but then simultaneously, I've seen you grow more through these trades, not despite
Right.
them. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of
Mhm.
feel like there's a chicken and the egg thing going on. But now here's the second question. Do you feel like because you were successful with the carefree attitude, that actually made things worse because you were being rewarded for bad behavior?
Yeah, but it still comes back though. That's the thing. That's the reality is like seeds planted still equate to a harvest later on. So it's either going to be good fruit or weeds. And that's what I came to realize is like you can't, eventually you keep acting like that is eventually gonna get you. Like for example, bro, the biggest bet I ever lost was I put 50,000 on the Memphis Grizzlies to beat the LA Lakers just because Ja Morant made a crazy shot and dapped his pops up courtside. And I was like, oh, say less. His pops is sitting courtside. He's about to go off. This man then proceeds to miss his next 20 shots.
I remember Sean O'Malley, but I remember Ryan Garcia. Like I remember,
Yeah,
I was there, bro.
exactly. So that's the point. It's like,
And it's the same with trading. Like you'll be dead sure about something, but at the end of the day, you still got to keep that thought in the back of your mind that anything can happen. You sit here and celebrate every win like you're the genius. Then you're gonna
right.
have downside L's when you take a loss. But if you're
Exactly.
then
And
it's
risk management still comes into play. That's where it's at the end of the day, you just have to tell yourself nothing is ever guaranteed and that I still need to be smart about this. And,
wait. Okay, so that's the biggest part. That's
Mhm.
the safety net with the guy tight roping across the canyon.
Right.
At the very end of the way, before all that, how much am I risking and how much can I afford to lose? Okay, once that's in the clear, then you can kind of be free. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a combination because, even at your house, bro, I had an 8K account and I put 30 lots in. Well, I put 20 lots in. I was smoking the wood and then I took another hit and I was like, nah, bro, we got to add another 10 lots because Trump's getting elected. Like, it's that big of a deal. And then literally, bro, I didn't even check the trade until like it could have gone 3 cents the wrong direction and the whole account would have been cooked. But that's money that I just had still sitting in there that I was like, oh, bet, let me load this up real quick.
But you accepted that risk. Like you knew if I
Exactly. That's
put
what I
the whole
mean by
thing
risk
on and I
tolerance.
lose
It's
it,
like,
that's
yeah,
all.
it's like there's still strategy and it's like I knew I couldn't add another one or even like a penny the wrong direction. So it's like there has to be some wiggle room. But I just was really anticipating once everything was finalized, we would at least get like a 10-cent push. I wasn't expecting to get the pop off that occurred, but now that's why I'm keep joking around saying that I'm paying child support on the 50-cent entries because they're like, bro, I just don't see price coming back to 50 cents. So,
Yep.
even a $5 to $10 price target is like, that's millions of dollars. So
Yep.
that's the
Dude,
double dip. But yeah, bro, I appreciate you having me on here. I know 2 p.m. if you want to pull up or whatever will make it work. But I'm about to go, my neighbor's outside, so I'm about to
Do
go.
your thing, Brody. I appreciate you stopping by for sure.
Absolutely. All right, y'all be safe.
Take it easy, bro. Members, let me know what model is this real quick before we hop off the stream. This is XRP. So we had this first trade. You guys can tell me this is trade one. What model is this? And then we had the second trade. You guys can tell me what model is this? Because you guys can see the fib. You guys can see the touch. And if I was to put the TPs, let me put the TPs for you. Just so you know. Look at this trade. Look at this. Come on. Come on, man. One person, tell me, what model is this? Please. And then we'll end the stream. You got the fucking 88 to TP2. Stop playing, man. It's 1 and 2. This is the low. So this would be model 1 inside the range. And then this is model 2. This one right here. Because this was the neckline to the high 88 TP2. Wow. Yeah, I mean, the consolidation would be like, what the fuck is this? You get what I'm saying? It would be right here. But as soon as you establish that low, kind of like that lower wick, so you have the duck, duck, goose, goose to the high 88.6. That's model 1. And then model 2 is just neckline to the high. It's so perfect. Oh my God. All right, everybody. Happy and safe trading. I'll see you guys at 2 p.m. for Jerome Powell's speech. Not expecting any rate changes at all. So it's going to be one of those canned speeches, but I think he's going to ask a lot. I think the press is going to ask him a lot of questions regarding his relationship with Trump and the pressure that he's getting politically. So it'll be pretty interesting. Probably going to be a bullish day because the market expectation is that there's no rate cuts. And so if the reality meets the expectations of the market, we typically have a bullish market. Like markets go up when things happen as they predicted or as they sort of expected, right? So if the consensus is no rate cuts, no rate hikes, and that comes out, we'll probably have a relief bounce. So keep an eye out for that. I'm all out of my trades. Catch you guys at 2 p.m. Peace. Members, appreciate you guys sticking along for the ride. I'll keep you guys posted in the group chat about this trade. But good shit.